Welcome to the M3 Podcast with your host, Earl T. Murray III. The M3 Podcast educates and empowers business owners to make, manage, and multiply their money through biblical and practical principles of life. Welcome to the M3 Podcast.
Hello, everyone. My name is Earl Murray. I'm the host of the M3 Podcast, and I'm excited to come back here for another episode. This is actually episode number 2 of the M3 Podcast, and today we're going to talk about keeping your money in your pocket as you transition, do various life changes. And so this topic of transition has been one near and dear to my life because it's been one that I have experienced several different transitions over the last few years. And these transitions have affected me financially, it's also affected my family in many different ways. And so as a business owner, as a husband, a father, we have to be prepared for these. Some of them we can prepare for, and sometimes, unfortunately, we're not prepared for. But how can we best prepare for them are the things that we can do on our part from the beginning, and that's on the front end. And so that's what I really want to talk to you about within this particular episode. So I want to kind of rewind everything back for you about 18 months ago. This is where a huge part of my transition has taken place. And I've had to experience both the good, the bad, as well as the ugly as it relates to transition. And so about 18 months ago, I was visiting my parents, and I saw that my mother, she wasn't doing well. Now, they had told me that, she was losing weight and she wasn't eating well, and she wasn't eating a lot, rather. And so when I walked in and I saw her, and I had this very peculiar face. And when I saw her, I said, we have to go and see what was going on. And while she was reluctant for anyone else to take her to the hospital, by the time I got there, she decided to go. So we got there to the emergency room that Saturday night. It was back in April of 2022. And we found out that she had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And while it was one of those moments where it sucks the life out of you, because when the doctor tells you that your mother has 6 months to live, or up to 6 months to live, you start thinking about what is it that we can and cannot do to be able to help her live longer. But unfortunately, when the doctor said that it was 6 months, it was a more rapid pace than that. So during the course of that time, my wife, then girlfriend at the time, we knew that we were going to get married in last year, and we were beginning to plan what our wedding day would look like. And so as we knew that my mother began to get her health declined, we knew it was important for us where my mother participated in our wedding day. So we did all of the planning. We made adjustments into that, and we got to June, and we were going to plan to do something in the month of June just for the parents, because my mother wasn't eating well. And things weren't looking well, and in fact, they called us to pull the plug. Now, by the grace of God, she did not die on that particular day. God allowed us to spare her life that day. But from that point, I called my wife, and we got married at her bedside 6 days before she passed. And so while that was a blessing, I now have new responsibilities. I have a new wife. I now have a mother who's passed, who is getting ready to transition, and that plays a lot for myself. And for as an individual who I am a business owner, I have an accounting and tax practice. I also do some training with a company where I'm sent out to go across North America to do all these trainings, and all of this, my business, my activities, everything, I have to just shut down. Now, for most solo entrepreneurs, if you have a small staff, when you shut down, you shut your business down, you shut down or you reduce your operations, then that means your customers, they shut down. They may say, I can hold off from paying you because you've had to step away. Or you have no work when you're contracted out, so there's no money that is coming in. And due to combination of those things, I was in that situation where money wasn't coming in the same way that it was. And I had to take care of all of this new thing that was my new reality. So I had to embrace it. I had to realize that I have to do something for myself as I'm working through this. In the midst of it, I'm not thinking about any of it. But I knew that I have a wife. She's now moving because we dated long distance. She's moving 500 miles to a new place that she's only been a few times in her life. And I have a family that is now, we're having to grieve for the loss of a matriarch. So I'm sitting in this position on what is it that we need to do? What is it that we need to do in the midst of this grief? Now, the one thing that I will say is with my mother, she's one of those planner type individuals. And what I appreciate about my mother being one of those planner type of people is that while we all know that we have to die, but she began to plan for that. And so while we were grieving, all of her life insurance, all the transitional things that had to take place were already done. And so I would say to any person who's listened to this now or years down the road, is to make sure that you have your those type of documents that's in place, because you never know one day when it will happen to you, or sharing this information can be able to help you to prepare for a loved one. See, for many of us who are here that's listening to this podcast, maybe you're in the ages of 35 to 55 or even older, and you may be taking care of a parent, or you have children. And these are the things that we have to think about when in terms of that balancing act within this age range. Because if one thing is off, this can be able to kill the financial prosperity for persons like you and I. So it is a very critical element in this day and age where we get those documents in order. But I'll come to those things and I'll come to those things shortly because this road is still not over. So I was able to get back up and going. I've now also had to move into a new home because where I was living, it wasn't it. My wife and I, we decided to get move into a new place together, and then 5 months later, from the date that my mom passed, we found out that my sister, who had recently moved to California with her mom, she had passed away on her job. So once again, I have to be able to put my business on hold, step aside, and me and my dad have to leave and fly across country to be able to take care of to help take care of the affairs of my sister. And these are things that people won't tell you when you have to step away and take care of different things because we just don't think about it. Or if you're working a 9 to 5, you can be able to use your leave. But when you're a business owner, you don't always have that luxury. So I then, after having to bury my, getting married, taking care of the affairs for my mom, now having to take care of the affairs for my sister. And now I have to deal with another grieving father who has lost his mother and his daughter, his wife and his daughter. And so as his son, I have to be able to make sure that my dad is straight to the best as I possibly can. And so we took care of the affairs, but now we're back in that same situation. Some transitions, when you put certain things in place, some things take time. Some things you can put in place instantly, and some things it takes some work. So, and then by, one of the blessings that we had that came at the end of the year, now finding out that I was going to be a father. And that was the biggest blessing that came with that. But now that causes for me as a man, as a husband, and now as a future father, that I have to prepare for this new normal, my new family structure that is getting ready to evolve. And so as a business owner, I have to be able to make some changes into the things that I did. And so I want to share with you 3 areas on how I have been able to keep money in my pocket as I navigated through life transitions. And so the first one I want to talk to you about is navigating when you have to step away from the business. And see, when I was able to step away from the business, one of the things that I learned is that I really had to change. I had to diversify the activities that I was doing. Now, diversifying the activities that I'm doing, I'm not saying to go off and start another business and all other stuff. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying to you is that you have to change how you do work. For some of you, I'll share with you is this. God has been beating up on me on what I needed to do. I need to do more trainings. I need to be a teacher. You need to do this, son. You need to do that. And I slow walked it. So some of this stuff that I dealt with was my own disobedience. But in real talk, the way, and then some things I did do well, and I got it right. But you got to diversify the activities in what you do. And what I found for me is where I had to make my transition as a leader, as a CEO of my company, is that the first way I had to diversify my activities was to change the work that I was doing. If I am going to be the person who God has called me to be, especially in leading teams or leading my team or in the future teams, you have to become, as a leader, you have to evaluate what is the most important task or things you need to do as a leader. You should not do $10 an hour task when that can be given to someone else. So that was the first thing I had to do. I had to go out and rehire some new team members to help carry out the work that I was doing. Now, for some business owners, some are paranoid for hiring people. But what I'll tell you is this: is if God ever places it in your heart, within your spirit, you whether He tells you, if you just have this unction of knowing within you, you go out there and you get the help. Don't look at your bank statement. Don't look at your credit card statement. Don't look at your profit and loss statement. That's when you have to follow God and have faith. Because when you have faith, God will open the resources and the doors that's going to help you get to get all the resources and the money that you need. So when I made that transition and I gave the work to other people, I got more projects. I got higher dollar clients. I was able to get larger projects where I was able to have the capacity where everybody got paid, me and the team members, and we weren't struggling. And so change the work that you do. In some instances, for some of us, we have the ability to be able to teach others on how to do the work. So whether it is me teaching my staff, so that relieves me to go out and do other things, or to go out there and train other people that want to learn how to do that type of work. Whether you are, maybe you are in construction and you're a plumber, you're a painter, you're some type of creative. You're one of those individuals where you were doing the work. But go out there and train the people. Go out there, train, teach somebody else. It now gives you the bandwidth in your mind that you can think about creative ways on how you can be able to serve your clients, your customers. And so look into doing that. And then the third way is looking at how you can train other companies to do what you do. So if I want to teach other, trainers to deal with things in accounting or finance or business development or any of that stuff, how can I best serve them? I got this revelation as I was putting this podcast together, is that as you move from your hands to your mouth to your head, is really that's where you gain more, where you're able to charge more money. There are people that is in this world where they want to be able to pay you for your brain. But for them to pay you for your brain, they can really care less about what you do with your hands. And so just giving you some context in terms of how you can be able to diversify your activity. And that's some things that I was able to make that transition. I had no choice. And for some of you who may be listening on here, whether it is you or someone that you know, another business owner, you got to be able to diversify your activity because you have no choice. Second way that I had to make an adjustment, that I had to diversify how I got paid. And there's 5 different ways that I show that I show people, whether it's through our challenges or through our coaching, on how to be able to diversify how you are paid as an individual. Number one, we look at transactional. And many of us, we're familiar with the transactional because that's when you pay me, I get my product, you get your money. That's it. But then let's look at some other ways you can get paid when you send an invoice. Is when you have done the service or you delivered the product and now you get paid. That means you get paid on the back end after you have delivered. But then sometimes you look at the third way is where you're able to get paid in advance. You can call it an advance payment or prepayment. That way that you're able to get your money on the front end versus waiting after. Now that can vary based upon the company or the industry that you work in. Some industries, they may or may not allow for prepayments, but at least you know that it is an option. Number 4, we look at is installment. An installment, you have a set amount of payments that you have. It's, we look from QVC where they talk about 4 payments of $19.99. But what product or service that you could offer within your business that you could have something that's within an installment? So it doesn't matter where, if you have to step away from the business or not, you know that money is going to come in. And then lastly, and then last, we have our subscription payments. And so the subscription payments is where, just like Netflix or some of our other favorite apps that we have, where you're able to get paid every single month. What could that do for you in your business when you're able to get that monthly recurring revenue? Sometimes you may need to transition some of your clients that may be paying you invoices and transition to them so they can pay you on a recurring basis versus them paying you when they feel like it. It helps you as a business owner at any given time, but especially in times of when you have to step away, and times when you're in low seasons, and it's going to help you when you have to make a pivot as a business owner. And so you have to begin to position yourself on how you can now create products and services that can be long-term. create service, create different opportunities for customers and clients to engage you when it's beyond transactional. And for some of you who have the recurring or have the installments or some of the others, how can we develop some things that are transactional? So if I'm sitting at my computer at night, then I can be able to get paid while I'm sleeping. And so these are some of the opportunities that you have as a business owner. But most of us, we were just only taught that it was only one way. And so I'm here to be able to show you in this episode that it's possible. You can have those things. You can do and make these changes, and it's going to be all right. And so, just wanted to, as we just continue with this conversation, that connect with us on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, and all that other good YouTube stuff. So that's what I want to talk about. Like, when, as a business owner, how do you step away? What are some things you can put into place now, so that if you ever have to step away, you ever need to pivot, you can be able to do so. And also, my next point is where we talk about life changes. Now, I talked to you last time, and talked about early in the podcast. Life changes as I went through grief. And it's what I shared before, is that with my mom, we were so blessed. I mean, when I say blessed, we were blessed that she had all her ducks in a row. And so when you're going through grief, she had everything that was set up with life insurance. So we knew that everything that's related to life insurance, we knew that it was going to go to my dad. We can just be able to call the people up. They were in folders. And we were able to move the process along with the burial and everything else. I say to people, you getting life insurance is a gift to your family. That's the gift you give to your family. You don't see it as a cost or a burden to yourself. It's how you're setting them up for the near future. Because funerals are very expensive. And if you're not careful, how you want to be remembered, you may not get that because you did not adequately prepare for what you want to see or how you want to be remembered on the other side. So she had the life insurance together. We also had the last will and testament. And the last will and testament that also includes like the advanced medical directive, the personal power of attorney. So after she transitions, who is the personal representative to represent her estate? Or, when she were dealing with those medical matters, who gives the permission to say if she needs to be resuscitated or she needs to be taken to the hospital, that they give the right for her to be able to for them to be able to do those things, because if not, then she has to stay at the home, or there's no document that says that. So making sure that those type of documents that you have that have those things that are in place. Review them once or twice a year. And this one thing that we're looking to as a family is now, life has changed for me. I'm now a husband and a father. making sure that, if God forbid something ever happens to me, that, my wife has, not just adequate cover for myself, but, that they can be able to take care of other things, after I'm gone, or even with my father still being alive, when, he, years from now he transitions. How does he want to be remembered? How do we now, the asset that my parents now has shared, how do we now deal with that with the remaining children? All of this, why is this important? Because when you have things in place, you keep money in your pockets. One of the things that when I have had clients come to me, whether it's with them, their families, or people that they know, is that because things weren't in order, they found themselves going into probate court. And probate is when you do not have a will and you don't have those things lined out. Now, that happens to a lot of people. But when you go to probate, the state gets a piece of your assets. It's taxed. And so money that should have, could have, would have been for your descendants, or that will come to you from your parents, or where you ever inherited from, you get less of that. That's less money in your pocket because you did not properly prepare. And so though that's a huge undertaking that takes place when you have an asset, no will, no will, no personal power of attorney, none of that stuff laid out, because you leave people with with no guidance in terms of what needs to be done in your absence. And then the third way that I wanted to be able to cover, which is one of the things that's pretty cool, that as a husband and a father, we're experiencing this now, is the life changes that we have by being married and having with children. Now, they did say, children are a bundle of joy, but they're expensive. And I made a Facebook post, I think within the last week, complaining to some of my friends how they didn't tell me about the cost of daycare. And I'm gonna rant to you guys too. And I learned that daycare, that cost is no joke. But let me get back on track. But in terms of now being married with children, one of the biggest advantages that I have is the savings and taxes. So when you're single, you're taxed at a higher rate. But when you're married, you get a lesser rate, or the rates are different. The tax brackets are different for married folks, especially when you file jointly versus when you file single. And so you work a job, and now we have a household of 4 versus a household of 1 or 2, just prior to us having to the birth of our daughters. Then that's the money that we're able to keep in our pockets every 2 weeks. And so if you have a change where your about to get married before the end of the year, or you've gotten married, whether it's this year or another year, make sure that you change your exemptions over to being married. Make sure that you've adjusted your withholdings to the right amount of people in your home, because that's some money that you're able to get during the course of the year versus wait until every February, March, or April when it's tax time. But some people, when they say the average major household expense that could put someone into debt is somewhere between $500 and $1,000. Imagine being able to have that additional money within a few paychecks that you could be able to stash to the side. So if something ever comes up, like tires blowing, or something needs to be, you need something, that the kids need something, then you have it, and it's no big issue. Or if you just want to save it, it's already there. And so these are some things that you can be able to look at. Now, another one, especially for those of you who are getting married or have just gotten married, you want to take a look at look at some of your household expenses, because when you were single, you both had to pay for all of the expenses individually, provided that you both lived out there on your own. You didn't live with a parent or someone else. But you want to look at that, because there's some cost savings that you may want to consider. If one spouse, they may have health insurance on their job, and it may be more efficient for you to transition over to one person's health insurance, or or whichever spouse you choose to, whichever one is financially advantageous for your household. You can do that with health insurance. You can do that with auto insurance. You can do that with cell phone bills, combining those, be on a family plan. We already know that for most married couples, you're going to already live in one place, so your household expenses may decrease. And that just depends on where you're originally coming from. And so these are some tips and tricks that myself, my family, that I've had to do within my business to make some adjustments over these last 18 months, because I got to get ready to take care. But all seriousness, making these adjustments take time, and be okay to know that they're going to take time, but you have to take action. And so my call to action to everyone is, look at some of the things in which I've shared today, with dealing with life challenges, when you have to deal with the business, when you need to step away or pivot. Look at when you need to, when you're dealing with grief, and then also looking at it when you're dealing with, when you are married, and you now have children. Because I believe that these are some things that's going to keep some money in your household and make your life a lot easier than what it has been before. And so this has been my road. I'm here to be able to share my testimony for how things have gone for us as a growing family, as for one who has dealt with grief over these last few months, but then also for one who is a business owner just like you guys, who are in the trenches, who want to make a difference in the work in the works in which we do. But life happens. And so this is Earl just sharing you my journey as it relates to being able to make, manage, and multiply your money. So, yeah. Give us your feedback. I would like to know your feedback about this topic on dealing with these life challenges. Feel free to leave us a comment, whether it's on YouTube or you want to leave something in on any of the podcast platforms, and we will definitely see you next time.
Thank you for watching the M3 podcast. Make sure to subscribe so that you never miss a broadcast.